I can click it.
I want to say
See?
Tell him,
Can't.
tell him to get ready.
Not let me see
this.
you or anybody
This.
with that arrow.
Amy.
And I don't see.
Yeah, and I don't
That's
want to press
fine.
on that.
And I don't see anything. So,
What's the plus?
whoop.
I ain't never been in a meeting like this.
Me down here.
That plus.
Do you hear me? Listen to me when I speak to you.
Okay, let's go here.
I don't chew my cabbage twice.
Reorder. Keep actions you don't use often here.
Hey,
But
Oh, there we
I
go.
might tell Jesus to do something to me.
yeah, that's only because I.
Oh, maybe that was a message that he sent with me on it.
If I
Yeah, but see,
regard
I
iniquity
can't.
in my heart, he won't hear me. Do you hear me?
Oh, wait, the
Let's
mic.
go.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, here we go. Where are we? Stop. Okay, so I'm broadcasting.
Said a great prayer service.
Okay, if I'm going to send an email, okay, and I'm going to send it to somebody, okay. My down arrow doesn't work, nor
Oh, okay.
my screen when I do.
What's up, man? How you doing?
It doesn't let me.
So do,
See,
so do
you
y'all
should
move
be able
the
to tap
chairs, or
it,
do you just move into the
but
chairs?
now
Just
I
moved in the
can,
chair. That's
I
just
didn't
here.
know if you had one you were comfortable sitting in.
then I can tab it.
It's all right. We're gonna be good.
These old chairs by wore out.
Let me hit that.
Y'all and the
But
parents could ever figure out what you wanted.
I try to
you
do
get
my,
some
I don't know
rules.
if I hit something.
they can't figure out?
Apparently, you can't get between y'all and the commission can't get them to agree.
I
on
have to
this
print
here
my
too
stuff.
high.
They need to be updated.
There ain't nobody ever asked me about nothing.
Shelley's trying to work all that out.
You do it with the keyboard?
Oh, no, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
need a
That's the
chair.
only, I only use it.
It don't matter with
See, I
it.
thought, well,
Yours has
maybe
to
it's a
be green.
connection.
Come on.
That's the only connection.
You know, this carpet is the carpet I picked out
It is seeing the keyboard.
Yeah, oh, you can
during
feel
one
it.
of the times I was here. And these chairs too.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
sitting in a chair
Just,
upstairs.
I
Bought
don't
one when I was
know.
here the last time. I mean,
Okay.
17, 18 years old now.
I can
Yeah.
respond, but
You know.
But I say these are some good chairs. They holding up.
Hmm?
There's some good chairs. They holding up.
Yeah. What's up, Gary?
He got his corner nailed down.
I can't add anybody. I can't add a. And that won't. That doesn't. That doesn't do it either. So actually, so this is not the city's keyboard. I mean, because I just got issued this, and I went and got the keyboard. But it's been working fine, and all of a sudden it didn't. So I don't know. Maybe I can take the Best Buy.
Like
Hmm?
your newsletter.
Oh,
You tried to shut it down.
So you should
Nope.
put a picture of your substation.
yeah, I'm gonna tell him.
Can't get back in.
Picture of me.
Look, I am the worst,
I'm
brother.
gonna tell him.
I'm
I'm gonna
afraid
tell
it's
him.
gonna watch it. It's like,
Okay.
where they shit.
Oh, wait, because you're not getting it.
Oh yeah. No, I had to reset it. To Jesse. All right, so like, where's my on?
What brings you to see us?
So I thought you held it. They're all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay. No. No shutdown.
I think what I saw from Marcus' deal was that one of the ones that proposed won't meet the criteria, and the other one did. So I think that's a good opinion today.
What's up?
Adam
I'm over there. I wore my blue. I ain't
She
want
said-
no problem.
She
I ain't
said,
want no
she
problem.
said she keeping you close
I
to
wore
her.
my blue. I ain't want no problem.
She said she said she keeping you close to her. She said she don't want no talk. She said she keeping you. Hey, that's the church version. I'm telling you. I'll tell you later what she said. Okay. Hey, listen. After we get in the garage, I'll tell you the exact language. All right.
No, but I'm not changing. I don't give a crap. I don't care. You know?
Yeah. Huh?
I need you to come up
Hey,
and
Mr.
sign.
Man, how are you? How you feeling? How your hip doing?
Okay, you burned your keep. Bye-bye.
How your hip doing? Okay. Mighty fine.
I'm not back to my
Okay.
Let me know you ready.
This
Okay.
one and this one and this one, the oil company gave us 50 grand last.
Y'all ready?
That's all I gave you.
Well. What rare?
All right, let's see if I can wake this thing.
Boy, you a whole mess. Mr. Taylor, sign in.
Thanks.
You ready, Madam Chair?
Well,
Madam Vice Chair?
apparently I thought I had given you the other one, but
Rotated it.
No.
ma'am, I just figured
Hold on 1 minute.
catch a few things to talk about. And I didn't know you'd talk.
My time to talk.
It is. Fully believe that.
Yeah.
Well, I hear
Where
you,
my
sir.
little thing?
I loved your
So I'm
video
just
the
hitting
other
on the
day for
desk.
ball game.
I'm gonna have to give me a whatchamacallit, for real. Okay.
So it appeared.
We ready, Tanya?
Madam Chair.
Madam, we ready? Okay.
Obviously, you're
Good afternoon, everybody. The meeting of the Shreveport City Council is now called to order. I'm going to ask Pastor Boykins if she would give the invocation, and Councilman Talaferro will lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
Oh, gracious Father, we come before you now in the mighty name of Jesus. We thank you, oh God, for this day, for this is yet another day that you have made. And God, we rejoice and we be glad in it. And so, Father, as we come with the councilmen and with all of city of Shreveport that are here today, we ask for your special blessings. We ask your anointing to be upon this meeting. And Lord God, we give you praise, we give you glory, and we honor you as we go forth this day in Jesus' name in righteousness. Amen.
Amen. All face the flag of the greatest country on earth, and as we say our pledge, let us be mindful of the sacrifices of our MIAs and POWs, and let us remind the sacrifices of Israel. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? Councilwoman Taylor,
Present.
Councilman Brooks, Councilman Talaferro,
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Butcher, Councilman Jackson,
I'm here.
Councilman Green,
I'm here.
and Councilwoman Bowman.
Present.
Tomorrow, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the administrative conference Monday, January 13, 2025, and the city council meeting Tuesday, January 14th. Does any council member have any awards, recognition, and distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes? You want to call it, Tammy?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Tammy Phelps. I'm sorry, Representative Tammy Phelps.
Hi. Hello, Commissioner Carthon. Welcome to our meeting. Good afternoon, Representative
Good afternoon.
Phelps.
Thank you, Councilwoman Taylor, and council members, for the opportunity to come before you again, just with the concern. I know that we've been discussing since September about a location of another liquor store in, actually in House District 3, and the address is 369 East 70th. Ms. Boykins, thank you for all that you've done to bring attention to that matter, and it has continued, information has continued to come to my office about this. I did want to alert you that I've recently gotten information of a occupancy license, and I'm not really sure how this process works. But the concern was, how did this establishment receive an occupancy license and they are not open, have not prepared for a business? As I understand, you have to have your business set up for an inspection to come in and what that business would look like. And this building has been empty even to this day. And this license was issued in October of 2024. And I would ask the council to please investigate that issue, because these are concerns that I cannot answer to the constituents who are still concerned about the location as well. And I think there has been some concern about the measurements. Councilman Jackson, thank you for mentioning that last meeting, that we would get additional information on the actual footage. Thank you.
Representative Phelps, can you come back? Is Mr. Clark here? Mr. Clark is not here?
I do not see him.
Attorney Edwards, you sent us some information as it relates to the measurements. We just received it, Representative Phelps. If you can give us a brief overview of how those particular measurements work, so that would be read into the record.
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Representative Phelps. The city attorney opinion that my office sent out about somewhere around 20 minutes ago outlines the process for distance requirements, definitions, and measurement protocols for ABO locations, basically under both our UDC, which is the Unified Development Code, as well as our Code of Ordinances. In brief, the location on 70th Street was measured versus a bunch of different locations, including Linwood Public Charter School, Sharon's Defensive Driving School, I think it's Emmanuel Church. There's a residence around that area as well. And so all of those distances were run as they are outlined in either Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances or in the UDC under 6.1, Article 6.1. All those measurements were appropriate for the pull-up liquor store, but not for East West Grocer. So some of the confusion has been that there was more than one liquor or alcohol location that was being discussed in this area, and they were being discussed under more than one legal regime. One was under the UDC and one was under Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances. The UDC talks about property line to property line, which is a measurement that has been done and can be done just using some sort of an online search. But the Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances measurements are done as a person would walk from property line to premises, and it defines premises as the basically the front door of the location that you are measuring to. So property line to premises as you would walk. So it requires you to take crosswalks, sidewalks, and those sorts of things. In this particular instance, the measurements were actually run together by personnel from SPD and MPC at the same time together. Those individuals walked it with mechanical, they call them wheels. They walked it with measuring wheels, two separate wheels, two separate personnel that went out together and walked it together to get the measurements. And they concur that that the pull-up liquor store meets all the distance requirements. East West Grocer did not. East West Grocer has not been granted a certificate of occupancy. Pull-up liquor has. My understanding, I assume, based upon the question that you asked about whether the entity has to be in operation and available for inspection prior to getting a license. I think that's a liquor license, which is separate from a certificate of occupancy. And Once they are ready to start operating, I'm sure they will be subject to that inspection by SPD. But my understanding is that's where they are in the process. I do see, I hate to do this to him because he hasn't even sat down yet. I do see that Agent Glass Bradley walked in, and he can probably give you some more information about the status of where that is in terms of pull-up liquor store.
Okay, and may I go back to, there always was two locations in question, and I think we made that on the first meeting. The distance there, when we said premise to premise, so are you saying that there is a city ordinance distance and also a Unified Development Code distance?
Yes, ma'am.
And the council's position is what distance?
The council has enacted both,
Okay,
and
and they're both different?
they are different. Council enacted the UDC, and the council enacted the Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances. I believe Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances tries at least to mirror state law, but there are various distance requirements. There's a 200-foot, a 300-foot, and a 1,000-foot requirement based upon whatever the location in question is. And the appropriate personnel from MPC and SPD went out and made all those measurements.
And in that instance, the measurements is from the front door to the next property line.
Under Chapter 10.
One.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Under Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances, it's from the front door to the property line.
And the UDC is from property line to property line.
That's correct.
Okay. So
And there's a wrinkle there as well, because the 200-foot residential requirement from property line to property line, from a location that sells alcohol or liquor to a residentially zoned property
that was my next question.
is problematic, because although there is a residence within 200 feet, it is actually zoned commercial.
Okay, that was the next thing. So let me go back to just the UDC, the two differences in the footage. Now makes sense to where the community is unclear. They're not, most citizens don't know the difference there. I've had to learn this process in September, and I think that's the breakdown of where one is saying it meets the code and one's saying that it doesn't. And I've heard the opinion and the position of the council, and hopefully that can be cleared up with the property line to property line, because that's the distance. And I'll look at the state guidelines as well. When we go to the residential area, that also came to my attention. Of course, there are residents back there, and of course, you would think you're in a residential zoned area.
Right.
And we did learn that it's commercially zoned. What's the time frame if a resident brings that concern of wanting to be residentially zoned? If they bring that to the attention of the MPC, I would assume.
They would bring that to the attention of the MPC. That's a great question. I don't know the time frame of that. It might be something that the MPC director may know, but they would absolutely want to bring that to the attention of the MPC, because I know that it's possible to rezone things.
And the average citizen wouldn't know that because their houses on their block. I think when we talk about the occupancy license, I don't know if you want to defer this to someone too, that the investigation that I was asking if you all would look into was, like you said, operational, but I understand that there still was a certificate issued in October of '24. So I don't know if that's an operation license, the occupancy license, obviously it's not their liquor license, but that's the certificate that is in question.
So that would be an answer, a question for Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Can you answer the question as far as the certificate of occupancy for pull-up liquor?
I really don't know, Councilwoman. I can find out by tomorrow if I knew that we determined that pull-up liquor had met all the requirements, Chapter 10. And as you would remember, we added additional requirements in the UDC, but those were just done for liquor stores. And 2 times, pull-up liquor has met those requirements.
I have a question, Mr. Clark. So if the building is empty and one of the qualifications on the inspection and the building is still empty, how was this issued?
It could have been issued because it's done by the permit center and the fire marshal and the MPC. They just go ahead and check to make sure that the building is safe to inhabit and it meets all the mechanical codes within the Code of Ordinances for the city of Shreveport. And they do the parking and other things with the site for the MPC requirements. So it could have been issued. I doubt it has been, but every time I say that, it has. So I'd like to just check if y'all would allow me to make certain that it either has or has not.
Okay, so is this a rule for all businesses or just pull-up liquor? Because I've never heard that an empty building. So does this rule apply for everyone?
One rule applies for all.
Okay. Okay.
We have an ordinance. The ordinance governs the entire city of Shreveport.
I think it's something that we're gonna need to review. Councilman Brooks. Councilman Brooks, would you like for them to set up a meeting to meet as it relates to pull-up liquor and this? Because I think it's something that we're gonna have to review on these ordinances because it's quite conflicting. Okay? I think, Mr. Clark, Representative Phelps, that we need to arrange a meeting with Mr. Clark, residents, Pastor Borkin, and the community as it relates to this. And then we need to, Attorney Edwards, take a look at both of these ordinances along with Detective Bradley to discuss this, so we will be in unison when it comes to this.
Thank you.
So I would say if we could look to schedule within the next week or so, where we can all sit down and collectively meet as it relates to this, to try to reach some level of resolve.
I could just come back one more time, Chair.
Yes.
I did verify that a certificate of occupancy has been issued for pull-up liquor.
Yeah, we need to meet about this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilwoman. President, that is, I just gotten the word from my office that I was just gonna give you the number, and that was the questions that I was not able to answer. If they're not set up in operation for business, it has been, things in there, it's not shelves or anything. I think it was almost like a storage. How did they receive that in October of '24?
Detective Bradley.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you explain to us how the liquor license was even issued?
So we just completed the second inspection at the business. It has not been signed off. Well, it'll be signed off on this week just because it meets all the requirements in Chapter 10. But no alcohol license has been issued as of now.
Okay. No alcohol license has been issued.
No, ma'am.
So is the store set up for business?
They have cameras up, but it's an empty shell as of right now.
Okay. You can ask.
Attorney Edwards, is there any way we can delay issuing that liquor license without violating any legal laws?
It is within the discretion of the chief of police to issue or not issue this license. When, if the chief of police were not to issue the license, the person would have a right of appeal to the council. I would be cautious as to saying whether delay is possible, because we have now said on the record several times that all requirements have been met.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Agent Bradley, do they have their state permit
No, no, sir.
They don't have city or state?
No, sir.
At this point? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. No, I'm just gonna get ready to go ahead and meet. So we will meet Representative Phelps. I'm gonna
Thank you.
ask that there will be a meeting between all respective
Okay.
parties.
Thank you so much for your attention to this matter. And I'm just thinking as I'm hearing that, and I totally understand the attorney's ruling there. However, I guess moving forward, so we all understand, again, if they're not operating for business and they have met the requirements, which we do understand for that license, but still, how were they issued this occupancy license first last year? And that's, I think,
It's a
where
question that
you're
we
going.
have.
Yes.
Right,
Thank you so much.
okay. Thank you. You're welcome. Is Mr. Daniel here? Got Mr. Daniel. Come on down, sir. How
Good
are you?
afternoon.
Good afternoon. So for the last, I'm going to say 2 weeks, but definitely in the last 24 to 48 hours, we've received a number of calls regarding the quality of our water. We are receiving complaints of water with smells. I had 2 complaints from residents that said that they are having some form of allergic reaction to the water. There hasn't been any correspondence that I'm aware of or that the residents are aware of that has been sent out to them. So could you possibly tell us what is going on with our water?
Absolutely. William Daniel, Director of Water and Sewerage for the City of Shreveport. So just in the normal course of operating, we generally quit treating for algae at the end of October. It just doesn't bloom after that, and I need to be careful of bloom. It doesn't grow as much after that. So what happened is because the lake is so warm that in December, the last week of December right after Christmas, we started seeing quite a lot of algae growth in the lake. And we treat that with copper sulfate. And we had to order more copper sulfate because the time that we generally treat is from March through October. So there is the algae smell and taste in the water. One of the ways that we deal with that is we oxidize it with the ozone system. It helps take the smell and taste out of the water. Well, during the cold weather, the ozone system also went down because the set points were incorrectly set when it was installed by the manufacturer. So we have now corrected that problem. The copper sulfate we ordered got delayed due to the snow in South Texas. So we expect to have that here this week, and we will start treating the algae in the lake. And that should clear up any of the taste and odor issues. It's not harmful. It's just can leave a poor taste in your mouth when you drink it. Although it's not affecting all the city the same. So I'm not really sure why that is, but that's kind of the distribution system at work.
Okay. Madam Vice Chair.
Yeah. Mr. Daniels, for me, it's the lack of communication to our constituents. Your knowledge of knowing this and not sharing it to the public is what's disturbing to me.
Well, just to be quite candid, we didn't realize it. We don't treat for algae. We never see it in the water in late December. We didn't find out about it until first week or so in January. Then we started treating it with the ozone, and we thought we'd get rid of it. Then the ozone system went down. It's not harmful. It's just a secondary quality.
But it's the perception. The restaurants are calling because our citizens are returning products they order at a store or a restaurant because it tastes bad. And it hasn't just been 2 weeks. to me, it's never cleared up. 1 week or two, you get clear water, and then the next 2 weeks is brown again. I mean, it's a quality of life to take a bath in brown water, to drink brown water. To me, we're making excuses, and something needs to be done.
Well, I'm not making any excuses, Councilwoman. I'm just telling you the facts. And
Okay.
the brown water, that was this summer with the manganese. We have resolved that issue. There's no more manganese the manganese levels are way below the standard. It was the algae that, because of the lake being much warmer than normal, that bloomed, grew in a time where we never have seen it grow before.
Okay, and for me, I'm gonna request the administration, if we run into these problems, let the council members know, so when we receive these calls, we'll know exactly what to tell our citizens, or put a public service announcement out, something, put a press release out, letting the constituents know exactly what's going on. It's the unknown, and you're drinking this water, you're bathing in it, it's just the unknown.
You're
don't know.
100% right. We need to communicate better. We should have communicated that. Just kind of all took us by surprise.
Can we get something out?
Sure.
Yes, I think that we're gonna have to get something out, because it is a definite concern, and it is the talk of neighborhood Facebook groups as it relates to their water and showing pictures, and so we don't have any answers as to why they're smelling this stench or what is going on with the water. So yeah, it is definitely communication that needs to get out, because citizens need to know that the water is not harmful, or whatever the precautionary measures that they need to take as it relates to that is essential. So if we could get something out today, that would be perfect.
We can do that.
Yes. Now, how long do we think is going to be before this clears up?
Well, like I said, we ordered, we've got the ozone system working properly again, and the copper sulfate that we treat it with should be here this week. So it should be clear up in a week or so.
Okay.
And it should be getting better every day as it is already.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, sir. Chief Reese. Is Chief Reese here, or is fire inspectors? Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I received a call regarding Northwood 2 apartments that appear to be filling some inspection requirements. I want to know what did you all find in the last inspection, because we are receiving complaints of improper wiring, mold, mildew, inadequate water pressure in the apartment complex, some without heating and air conditioning in these cold temperatures. So in your last fire inspection, what did you see in these apartments?
So if you don't mind, I'll bring up my chief of fire inspection, and he kind of walk you through the process of what they look for in the apartment complexes.
Okay.
That'll be for all of them. That's the Chief Mike Hood.
Hi.
Hey, good afternoon. Mike Hood, Chief of Fire Prevention.
Thank you. Can you tell me what you found with Northwood 2 apartments in your inspections?
Sure. So I looked at the records today, and we try to get in these apartments annually, which we call an annual routine inspection for the apartments. The last date, I believe, offhand, was in July. And so typically they're looking for fire code violations, which are life safety. So it's fire extinguishers, it's things working properly, smoke alarms and things like that. Treads and stairs, anything that may be a life safety concern. The report, the only thing left outstanding were proper building identification, which is for us, coming up first responders, look at the buildings, and then marking of the meters, which means each meter corresponds to a building, electric meter, so we can turn it off properly if we do have a fire. Okay. So those are the only two outstanding things that I found in inspection report.
Okay. Ms. Scott. Yes, Scott. Is she here?
Yes.
Ms. Scott? Did you have the opportunity, Ms. Scott, to have any contact with HUD as it relates to these apartments? Because what we're having again are these apartment complexes, and the tenants are calling, and the landlords are inaccessible. And so we're looking at and receiving conditions of these apartments that are deplorable, but also at the same time, they are receiving federal funding to subsidize the rent. And so at this point, this is becoming a problem for the city council because this is who they're calling. And when it should definitely be a problem for HUD. So I'm wondering, are they doing any inspections on these apartments? Because these individuals are paying their rent. Inclusive of their rent is water, electric, and whatever other trash pickup, but then they're not receiving the services. So what we had the last 2 weeks are individuals without heat, without running water, all of the things that will improve your quality of life. So were you able to contact anybody with housing and urban development?
We have reached out to the applicable housing compliance agencies. We have not received a response as of yet.
Okay.
But we are going to be working with them to make sure that we do get a response soon. Part of it is going to be figuring out which agency has authority in this area, but once we get that figured out, we will provide an update.
With some of these individuals that are in these apartments are elderly, so can we also add elderly services
Absolutely.
to this list to report them as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Is there anything else you got? Okay. Mayor Arsenault, do you have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes?
I do not.
Okay. Mayor Arsenault, do you have any communications of the mayor relative to city business?
I do.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have significant concerns about proposed ordinance number 7 of 2025, which I'd like to discuss briefly.
Okay.
First, the site at 8509 Lion Avenue has been one of the primary choices for sites for Southeast Shreveport substation. That has not changed. There were some other considerations that caused us to explore other sites as well. One of the considerations has to do with the design of the new police headquarters at 1234 Texas Avenue. The council has made it clear that you want that building to be built for the amount approved by the public in the 2021 bond issue, and we have been pursuing a design that would do that. One of the changes to the design to reduce the square footage of the building, and therefore its cost, is the elimination of housing a patrol section there, which we had considered prior to the council's policy indications. Thus, we must find a permanent home for 2 of the 4 patrol sections besides the substations on Monkhouse Drive and North Market Street. We must also locate the funds for that 4th home for a patrol section. We had been exploring an alternative site in Southeast Shreveport that would have been large enough to house both of the remaining patrol sections. However, we have learned just today that site is not going to be feasible within the funds we have from the 2021 bond issue. That leads us back to 8509 Lion Avenue. There are some due diligence concerns about 8509 Lion Avenue that we believe should be pursued before making a final decision. First, we need to determine whether the site has adequate parking to accommodate a patrol section, and if not, whether adjacent property is available to be purchased and at what price. Second, as with any other purchase of property by the city, we need to have an environmental assessment of the site. Third, we would need to know what the appraised value of the site is to determine if the 2021 bond funds will be sufficient to acquire the site. Accordingly, I plan to direct that 3 actions be taken relative to the 8509 Lion Avenue property. First, a determination whether the site has adequate parking to accommodate a patrol section, and if not, whether adjacent property is available to be purchased and at what price. 2, an environmental assessment be performed of the site. And 3, if those concerns are met, to have an appraisal done to determine the property's fair market value as well as the value of any additional property that might need to be purchased. Once those things are done, I will make a recommendation on the Line Avenue site to the council. I believe that there are significant legal and policy concerns with the proposed ordinance requiring the immediate purchase of the Line Avenue property. The city charter does not grant the council the power to direct the mayor to take such an action. Further, I do not believe that the circumstances described in the ordinance meet the criteria for an emergency. No one disputes that there is a need to remove police officers and other employees from the current headquarters at 123 Texas Avenue as quickly as possible. Ever since the council first raised this issue last fall, this has been a high priority. As of this week, more than 100 SPD employees have already been moved out. By the end of March, the building should be empty. We believe the current plan to move personnel from 1234 Texas Avenue, which we have discussed with you and which you have approved thus far, will result in moving personnel from that site more quickly than would result from the acquisition of the Line Avenue property. We are also concerned that the proposed ordinance directs the mayor to purchase the Line Avenue property for fair market value without us knowing what that value actually is. The value could be in excess of the bond funds that we have. In the interim, we will continue with plans to move the patrol sections to the Dean Road site, which will temporarily house 2 patrol sections. The next step of that process is to present you with a proposed lease for that property. I will also work to determine the best possible site for the remaining patrol group to be located. We all want to get the SPD officers out of 1234 Texas Avenue and out into the community. This ordinance, by creating a city charter issue unnecessarily and requiring us to purchase a site whose value is unknown, is not the best way to do that. We believe the best way forward is to work together to perform due diligence on 8509 Line Avenue and hopefully determine to purchase it for a fair price. Thus, we respectfully request that the authors withdraw the proposed ordinance or that the council defeat the ordinance tomorrow.
Anything, Councilman Brooks? You have anything? Not right now. Yeah, I have some. Okay. Councilman Talaferro?
Just a few questions, and this may be for the city attorney. So when the language emergency ordinance is used, would you explain to our audience the difference, what the term is and what the term allows us to do, rather than just us initiating a resolution, which we've already done in Resolution 16, I believe?
Emergency ordinances are handled in Section 4.19 of the city charter. 4.19 requires that an emergency ordinance shall be for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, or safety. It then requires that a specific statement of what the emergency is be stated in the ordinance, and then it allows, as long as it's not under certain exceptions like budget ordinances and those sorts of things, which cannot be emergency ordinances. But if it is established that an immediate threat to the public peace, health, or safety is established in the ordinance, then it allows the ordinance to be passed on a single read basis.
Hold on 1 second, Councilman Taylor. If you have a cell phone, I need you to silence it, please.
Thank you. So a couple of quick questions for for clarification, Mr. Mayor or Mr. Dark. The Dean Road location would be, just explain that to me. The Dean Road location is for which area? Was it going to be Area 4?
As far as I understand it, it's for areas 2 and 4 short term.
And what? Yeah, I'm pretty concerned about the Area 2 bit because that's a long way to get from my area to Area 2. And so, do we know how long that would be for? I mean, I know it's putting you on the spot.
It really depends on whether 8509 ends up being a good location for us. Because if it's 8509 and we don't have to do much, then Area 2 won't be there very long. Area 4 probably will be, because that's one we got to find another place for. But that's the unknown in that one. You know, this was going to be the CVS location where Area 2 and 4 were, which is a little closer to the area, although not that much closer. But when that one fell through, we began to look for something that was big enough to hold two groups, and the Summer Grove United Methodist Church was one of the few that met that criteria. So that's why we have, at least at this point, chosen to put them there.
And while I did co-sponsor the ordinance, I did get hung up on the emergency aspect of it after reading the charter and after getting counsel from other people that are a lot smarter than I am. And I just was confused that it doesn't seem like we're going to be able, it doesn't seem like we're accomplishing anything different from the emergency aspect of this ordinance than is already in the resolution. Is that my understanding, Marcus? I'm sorry, Council? And let me follow up on that. As a realtor, whenever I come in contact with purchasing property, there is a lot that goes into purchasing property. And I'm always hesitant, I'm very hesitant on using the word emergency to force us to try to move things along faster than they normally would. I know the emergency. I think everybody understands the emergency, especially our officers down at 123 for Texas. The emergency has always been paramount as we initiated in Resolution 16. So I don't want to hamstring our administration. I want them to do their due diligence as we authorize them to do in the Resolution 16. So my question is that I forgot my question there. Council, help me out. I know, right? That's that deer in the headlight look, right?
I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we're accomplishing the same thing in the resolution as we would in the ordinance. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think the resolution was the full extent of what the council can do. And I'm not sure what Resolution 16 was. Are we talking about the resolution?
Well, that's
from
encouraging the mayor to negotiate the purchase of the property and improvements at 8509.
I thought that was Resolution 175 of 2024. And Resolution 175 of 2024 would have been the full extent of what the council can do in this regard, which is to strongly urge the mayor to take a particular policy action. And I think that message is being communicated, has been communicated, and is hopefully being received.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Does any member have any concerns relative to property standards for Mr. Green?
Just want to thank you for the cleanup at the apartments. I got several calls from the neighbors, and they were very, very satisfied. Thank you.
You're welcome. Agreed. Thanks. I've got there's some squatter issues on the Public Safety Committee agenda tomorrow, and some of them pertain to property standards, so I can get with you before then, or if you want to attend.
You want me to come to the meeting?
Yeah, I'd like for you to, if you could.
Okay.
1:30 tomorrow.
What time is it?
1:30.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Green.
All right. Have a good one.
Mr. Clark, do you have a master plan committee report?
I do, Madam Chair. Excuse me. We have noticed that the master plan committee for the council has been assigned to council persons. And we've been coordinating through the clerk to set up a meeting with the council master plan committee and the MPC master plan committee as part of what the ongoing process that we're doing. I think there needs to be a much better means of communication between the Metropolitan Planning Commission and the City Council, and I think you need to be made aware of all the recommendations that are under consideration. You need to be made aware of where we are. We're in the final phases of completing the update, but that's going to be something that's going to assure us of a lot of values. We tried that maybe 3 years ago. We had some meetings that was during the time when the Metropolitan Planning Commission included the Parish of Caddo. So we had representatives from the commission, the council, and the MPC. And this committee sits down and evaluate actions that are being taken and make recommendations to the staff on actions to find ways to get done. And just wanted to come and share that with you. And we meet with the consultants again tomorrow to get even more information. We've just been sort of thrown off by the weather and the holidays, but we get a full report tomorrow, and I'll be able to update you even more.
So those are the dates that you sent to the council members that you're speaking
sorry?
of? The dates that you sent to the council members, is that what you're speaking of?
That's something
else?
different.
Okay, all right,
We're trying to make sure that the council is fully involved
okay,
in what's happening.
all right.
And the committee also to meet with the MPC to develop policies on how things can be done.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Madam Chair.
Mr. Clark, I want to tell you thank you for the neighborhood participation meetings. I do feel like they have gotten better from the last meeting. The last two I had in my district were pretty informative. I think that's the only thing the constituents really want to know is what's going on in their community. So I thank you for taking that request, and I did see a difference.
And it's helped us also, Councilwoman Bowman, because our young planners, the majority of them are not from the city of Shreveport, so they're not as familiar with the different neighborhoods as I would like for them to be. So by getting an opportunity to go out and introduce themselves to citizens in different neighborhoods and meeting with those different owners from the beginning to the end has, in my opinion, has given us great dividends.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Did everyone receive the budget to actual financial report? There are no public hearings. Mr. Dark, will there be any other legislation that will be added tomorrow?
No, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Today, we will hear public comments on non-agenda and agenda items. The chair will monitor those requests, and you will have 3 minutes to speak and state your name and address for the record, and please maintain public decorum.
Okay, first name we have is Kenneth Kraft.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chairman, Madam Chairman, Council. This is a suggestion. If you want me to, Madam Chairman, I'll send this to Wheel of Fortune for before and after. It'll be Tabitha Taylor Swift. No? No, I'm gonna let that go. I just want to thank y'all for passing the resolution for the City Charter Committee. I thank you for that. 3 members. When would it be appropriate to send comments? At the meeting or to the 3 members before the first meeting? Or how do y'all want to work that out?
You can send your comments to us. You can send your comments to us.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'll copy my council member.
That'll be-
Because a certain person has been asking for this for about 10 years.
Do you know his name? Kind of looks like you.
The Grinch.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I know somebody else that is doing
one more
too.
thing. I just want to recall something in 1965 at my senior in high school when we had a certain Mercury 7 astronaut, Virgil Gus Grissom, call sign Liberty Bell 7. He spoke to us and he tried to get us interested in engineering and science. And unfortunately, he passed away 58 years ago today in a launch pad fire at the Cape with Roger Chafee and Ed White. But that always stuck with me. He made a very good speech. Well, one more thing. Chiefs or Eagles?
Neither.
I think a certain sports writer for Focus picked the Commanders and Bills in the Super Bowl.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft.
Mr. Kraft.
Craig Lee.
This somebody else, they wanted a charter review too.
Craig Lee, 1112 Prospect Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm glad Councilwoman Taylor has put on the agenda Resolution 13, which is honoring Bonnie Moore. I first met Bonnie Moore in 1995 when I retired from corporate America. She was a phenomenal grant writer. And kinfolk, I don't know if you remember the old community development annex building, the city annex building, right, where the bus station is at now. And she was doing her thing and making some major things happen. And under the Hightower administration, she was appointed as the interim and then ultimately as the director. Sometimes I have to bump heads with even people that I like. But Bonnie has done a great job, and we're going to miss her in the city. But that brings me to the point that Mayor Arsenault, you're going to have to make a major decision, and that person who needs to fill that position is going to have to be a phenomenal entity, because we have some major challenges in the city of Shreveport and throughout the country at this stage in the ball game dealing with affordable housing. Those individuals who are being considered for community development need to also be focused on economic development and infrastructure and a lot of different things as relates to it. And hopefully Bonnie is not going to leave Shreveport Caddo. Hopefully she'll be around as a consultant or something to that effect. But I want to urge the mayor and the council, as it relates to the next person who will take that position, assume that position, they have got to be phenomenal.
Amen.
They have got to be phenomenal. We have to grow our population in the city of Shreveport. It's my objective to grow the population over the next 20 years by a couple 100,000, because that's the reason that we don't have inexpensive flights coming out of the city of Shreveport. So that community development person has to have the skills of Bonnie and the vigor and the vision. And I just want to urge you guys to think honorably at that. And I know Bonnie didn't want a lot of fanfare. She probably didn't even want a party. I heard she just wanted to go out into the sunset
She's
without.
actually going to be here tomorrow.
She is? Yeah. Okay, good. So I'll say the same speech tomorrow.
Okay then.
But that's what I wanted to express today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Stacy Jones.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Stacy Jones. I reside at 8219 Burning Tree Drive. I'm a business owner here in Shreveport. I'm and a taxpayer, but more importantly, at the moment, I'm a volunteer basketball coach. My issue is with SPAR, and I have a series of questions I wish that you could get answers for, because I can't seem to get them. The parents can't seem to get them. If we do get any resolution, it's either half-hearted or non-action at all. So at current, we have an issue with SPAR where they're having parents sign waivers for their kids to play basketball, yet the courts in which the kids are playing on have not been maintained. So kids are sliding all over the floor, but SPAR is sticking to their guns by barely maintaining them. Okay, so we brought that to their attention. We're also having an issue with SPAR's, why is SPAR asking parents and teams to pay retroactively for a season that happened last year, when they asked us to pay fees for a season that's already played. been played, and a champion has already been crowned. They switched to resort systems last year, where parents had to register their children and pay for IDs and so forth and so forth. They did not give teams or the parents the indication that we had to pay a separate fee to spar. Now that that season's over with, they're holding everybody hostage to pay money for a season that's already been played, right? And we raised this issue a couple of times. Since January 7th, I've gotten no less than 12 emails about fees that are due now. They're threatening to eliminate teams from the current season if these retroactive fees aren't paid on top of the new fees, which, you know, would be a problem for any parent if you're saying, hey, I need you to pay for last year when you said nothing the year before. So we need, perhaps you can get those answers that we can't seem to get. We also have an issue with them, the scheduling issues. We got sparse scheduling elementary kids and junior high kids basketball games at 8 o'clock on school nights. We made mention of this last year. Yes, ma'am. 8 o'clock. NBA don't start that late unless it's on the West Coast. We made mention of this last year in February. I sent out an email. I CC'd all the people that were department heads. This year, we got the same problem, right? They're saying that they sharing referees and officials with Caddo, so forth and so forth. But we asked, okay, do you have a farm system? Are you recruiting young people who play sports here for the high schools or the local colleges? And are you training them? Are you recruiting them, training them, and utilizing them to fill the gap for the refs that you don't have? Nobody has a word to say. But yet and still, they can cancel games whenever they see fit. They can, you know, kind of handle the parents and the kids however they see fit. And I don't think that's fair at all. Also, so maybe you can get an answer to that as well.
So, Mr. Your time is up.
Okay.
Shelley, can you meet with Mr. Jones right now? Go straight to the back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who am I? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Sharon Borkins.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am going to, I think that part of our problem is going to be solved when we have the meeting that Councilman Taylor said that we're going to have. But I do want to ask one question. Now, guys, I am not a politician. And so I don't know, Mayor Arsenault, all of the ropes and what I'm supposed to say or not say when I'm in these kind of settings.
Pastor,
But what I
talk
want,
to us.
huh?
Just talk to us.
Okay, just talk to y'all?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, well, that's my mayor over there.
But it's a council meeting.
Okay, gotcha. All right, just teach me, honey, just
Okay.
teach me. I appreciate that. In all things that I do, I just want to live peaceably with everybody. But I do have a concern. I keep saying with the issue, and I guess we can talk about it further, but I do want it on the record that I'm concerned about the measurements between the 369 and the church that's across the street. That was what I thought I was coming to hear this time, was the measurements that was from the 369 liquor store, pull up 5, and what's the name of the church? Throne of Grace Revival Ministries. As to my knowledge, they're still there. And so looking at, I know that the police department and everybody else that you guys had to do the measurement was from the neighborhood to the liquor store.
So what we want to do is address that concern that you have. Is the reason I said that we want to have this meeting.
Yes, I
We
think
want
so.
to be able to address all of that.
All of that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I
Ms.
appreciate
Sharon.
it. Yes, ma'am.
I failed to ask you for your name and address. Can you give us that for the record?
Certainly. You
Yes,
want
ma'am.
my personal address, or you
Oh,
want?
you need a P.O. box, whatever you want.
Okay. My name is Sharon Boykins, and I am at 458 East 70th Street, Shreveport, Louisiana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Robert Thomas.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, rather. My concerns and the situation I want to address is the city's water supply.
Right. Can I get your
My name
name
is
and
Robert R.
address?
Thomas Jr.,
Okay.
3926 Oak Crest Street. And as a somewhat of a social media, I guess you could say influencer, although I don't consider myself that, I see a lot of people complaining about the city's water supply. Now, we know that, about 8, 9 years ago, we had an issue with a landfill that was burning for 10 years underground, and the city of Shreveport knew about it, but at that time, that administration did nothing about it. That landfill was less than a half a mile away from the Cross Lake where we get our water. Now we are faced with situations, and I want to ask the city council, are you all aware if there's any fracking going on under or close to our city's water supply? Because we have had 6 earthquakes in the last 6 months, 2 of them just this month alone. We know that fracking is a potential cause of earthquakes. So my concern is that if the city would be willing to work with a group of people here that want to find answers, because we know for a fact that not under this administration, maybe 2 administrations ago, there was a lot of, I guess you could say, fudgery going around with the city's water bill. People were getting high water bills that didn't deserve them. We know that there's been games being played on the citizens. So my concern is, will the city be willing to help a group of concerned citizens to find out what is really the problem going on with the water supply? Because there's too many people complaining, and we're getting issues like there's sediments, but we know that anybody got common sense, that sediments are at the bottom of the lake. Why is it coming up? Why is it that these sediments are passing the water filtration system? So I just want to know if we can get an answer to that, and would the city of Shreveport be willing, the council meaning the council, would you all be willing to help us as citizens find out really what's going on? Because we know a lot of times there's things that you all can't say, but as citizens, there are questions that we are going to continue to ask, and there's no reason for our water supply to be having this much displeasure amongst the citizens of Shreveport.
A press release is going to be going out today concerning the water. I know you arrived in the chamber late, so you didn't hear what Mr. Daniel had to say. If Mr. Daniel or Brandon Sneed can hear me under the sound of their voice, I'm going to ask them to come down and speak with you to tell you what the situation is. 2 weeks ago, we had a geologist here to talk about earthquakes and the fracking and everything that was going on. That would be on the YouTube site for the city of Shreveport, but I want them to come down and give you the explanation of why the water is tasting and smelling the way that it is.
Who sponsored those? Who sponsored that? I mean, the city sponsored the study with the
I
geologist?
asked the geologist to come in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that means we as the citizen, were we able to get our own geologist? Because we know sometimes that there's conflicting.
No, we did not pay him.
Okay,
We did not pay him. He's the head of geology at Centenary College.
okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Well, I just want to get that clear because there's too many people complaining about the water, and we really need
We are too. And so that's why we had Mr. Daniel to come down to give the explanation, ask there to be more communication between the water department and our constituents so they would know what is going on.
And when will
So
that meeting be? When will the citizen?
we did that today.
Okay.
We did it today.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Robert.
Mr. Robert.
Robert.
I'm blessed, and how about yourself, Pastor? I'm sorry, Pastor. I'm sorry.
I just want to say hello.
I love you, man. Love you all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Y'all be blessed.
All right.
Robert, hold tight. If you we'll see if Mr. Daniel is still here, so they can give you the explanation of Brandon. Okay?
Got one more. Aurora Rush.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi there.
Councilwoman Taylor. Hi. My name is Aurora Rush, council people.
I live in the MLK district, and I happen to speak Spanish. I am here to speak on behalf of citizens who have no voice because they do not speak the language. In the last 3 days, I have volunteered my services as a translator for them, and I have received an influx of thousands and thousands and thousands of messages from people all across the city who are concerned about whether or not it is safe for them to leave their houses, to go to work, to shop our local businesses, to send their kids to school, or to attend worship services or seek medical.
Ms.
And-
Rush emailed this morning, and
Yes, I did.
Ms. Mayor Arsenault, Mr. Dark, what our Hispanic population is concerned is they're concerned with their safety, and they're concerned with the policies that have come down from the president, and for fear of retribution because of their ethnicity. So they fear going out in public, fear working on jobs, fear just having their children in schools because they don't know if ICE is going to come in and deport them. And so what the Hispanic population wants to know is what is the city's position as it relates to immigration? What is the city's position when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because there is a segment of the population that is marginalized, and because they feel that some of the acts of the particular entities are somewhat inhumane, what is our position from the city's vantage point?
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
You're welcome.
City intends to protect all of its citizens, and that includes those of Hispanic heritage.
Will you translate that?
Yes,
for
I
them?
will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes public comments, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have no executive appointments to consider tomorrow. There are no items under consent agenda for introduction. Mr. Dark, please proceed with regular agenda legislation.
Thank you. Resolution number 3 adopts the annual system survey and compliance questionnaire that the state of Louisiana's legislative auditor requires. It's very, very boilerplate, pretty much asks, do we follow state law on such things as bidding and council meetings and open meetings and stuff like that. This is something you approve every year. Resolution number 4 is authorizing a cooperative endeavor agreement with the state for $125,000 that they appropriated in the last legislative session for recreation improvements along Bayou Pier. Resolution 5 is another one of the gas lease assignments that we've had from time to time. Again, Cypress Energy Partners actually goes to the mineral board and gets the lease, and then Paloma Natural Gas actually does the drilling, and so that's another assignment of this one. 6 through 9 are contracts. Number 6 is a contract for a little over $144,000 for design of the new pools at Airport Park in Southern Hills. 7 is $240,000 for design work on street bond projects. 8 is $500,000 for a supplement to a contract with a company called eSource for water metering infrastructure. And 9 is $119,500 for design work on HVAC work at City Court. Number 10 is one of 2 resolutions that we tend to give you each year, this one early and the second one later in the spring. Council approval for the mayor to pay the premiums and execute various documents relative to buying excess workers' comp and inland marine insurance. The fee for this year is a little over $830,000, and it's up 2% from the year before. We're about 2 months away, I think, from coming up with the much larger one for liability and those sorts of things. Number 12 is one that was added last time. It's authorizing the mayor to execute a service and maintenance agreement with a company called Stryker Sales. It's a multi-year deal, but it's $33,000 a year. They basically maintain the defibrillators that the fire department uses. Number 13 is the miracle of Councilwoman Taylor for getting Bonnie Moore to come to council tomorrow. So, we too will be glad for you to get her here to honor her. We had a little thing in the office last week for her, which we had to trick her to get her here for that. So, you did better than we did on that part.
It was a lot of work, I promise you.
And I don't know what you promised her, but anyway, we're glad you're honoring her. She's definitely going to be missed. 14 is a resolution recognizing the 75th anniversary of Booker T. Washington High School. Didn't realize till I read the resolution that the school actually opened during the school year in 1950, during January. Resolution 15 dedicates the 1800 block of Hickory Street in honor of Coach Clarence Conway. That's one prepared by Councilmember Brooks.
Any questions? Mr. Dark, would you proceed with introductions of resolutions not to be adopted prior to February the 11th?
Okay, we have 5 this time. Resolution 16 authorizes the agreement for this year's external audit between the city and Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. This is prepared at the request and upon the recommendation of the internal auditor. 17, 18, 19, and 20 are all 3-year contracts for various parades that occur during the Mardi Gras season. 17 is the African American Celebration Corporation, 18 is Harambe, 19 is the crew of Highland, and 20 is the crew of Sobek. But those are 3-year agreements.
Any questions? There are no items under introduction of ordinances, so Mr. Dark, please proceed with ordinances on second reading and final passage.
Okay, ordinance 40 is the Stageworks one. Mr. Edwards, if you have any new tidbits on that one, this would be a good time for it.
I have no update on ordinance 40.
Okay. 162 is ordinance 162 is zoning case 24-175C. This was postponed last time, I believe, at the request of Councilmember Bowman. 163 is the one that y'all talked a good bit about last time. Zoning case 24-182C. This is Hutchinson and Greenwood Road. I believe y'all were going to go out and take a look at how the interface was actually with the between this particular zoning parcel and the houses around it. So that was postponed last time, I believe, for y'all to do that. Ordinance 1 amends the general fund budget. It's $15,000 being moved in the city council, actually for internal audit between personal services and other things with no change in dollars. Ordinance 2 amends the community development budget because we left out certain of the enacting provisions in the ordinance, so all it's doing is putting those in. There's no money involved in Ordinance 2 at all. Ordinance 3 amends the capital budget to put in almost $1.2 million provided by the state for design funds for what may someday become a train station for Amtrak off Texas Avenue. Ordinance 4 is $716,250 for state money again for Biopier area improvements. This was approved last year in the capital outlay budget. Ordinance 5, as y'all recall, Paloma Natural Gas gave us $50,000 last year to help us repair some damage that occurred to Pines Road as a result of their work and other folks, and this appropriates that. And 6 amends the capital budget to, again, $716,250 for the University Park project, so we can begin work on design. And 7 is the emergency ordinance that was discussed earlier.
Any questions? Councilman Brooks?
So, Councilor Edwards, I think Councilman Talafero's question earlier was, what's the difference in this ordinance 7 than the resolution that was passed, I don't remember when, that encouraged the administration to move forward with 8509? Was that what you were trying to ask, Councilman Talafero?
Yeah, I just wanted the differentiation. In other words, what changes, what can we expect to be different by adding the word emergency?
Pull your mic to you.
Sorry. By adding the word emergency or leaving it as the resolution, which already, puts it on the administration to do their due diligence to purchase that property.
Ordinance 175 of 2024 was a resolution urging the administration to take the action of pursuing an agreement at 8509 Line Avenue. Emergency Ordinance 7 is an emergency ordinance authorizing and requiring the purchase of the property. So the difference with the word emergency is primarily that it allows the council to pass it on one reading. In this instance, because of the text of the ordinance, that's the basic difference in the emergency designation. Because the ordinance still requires an appraisal and some other steps. But the other difference is in the title, it requires the purchase of the property, and in the text of the ordinance, it also says that the mayor shall take certain actions that are normally within the discretion of the executive.
So it requires as opposed to encourages.
That's correct. The language prescribes the requirement of the mayor to take those actions.
And in your opinion, as you've expressed to me, that we cannot require the mayor to purchase this property.
That's correct. Under these circumstances, in this way, the council cannot require the executive by way of passing an ordinance to take an action that would otherwise be within the discretion of the mayor.
Would it be possible that that another attorney would have a different opinion than yours?
It's possible that another attorney would have a different opinion and see it differently than mine. I did spend some time doing some research on this, and there's a Louisiana Attorney General opinion on this matter that supports my reading of the situation. The Attorney General opinion, however, has to do with Larison Act, a Larison Act municipality, the city of Central Louisiana, but there's no difference in the reasoning. There's no difference in the establishment of legislative power within the council and executive and administrative power within the mayor. It is possible that an attorney can see it differently, but there is an Attorney General opinion on point.
Okay, a quick question for your Mr. Darker, the mayor. You said you would move forward with 8509. One of the stipulations was adequate parking. Who decides adequate? Because the chief and I have a different opinion of adequate.
Speaking for me, I would leave that to Mr. Dark, because he's made some calculations, and they may be somewhere in between you and the chief.
Okay.
I have tried very hard to be as skeptical as possible about the total number of parking spaces required, and have had some conversations with the chief there. The only thing we're really trying to do, and it will matter from district to district probably, is, some of the people don't have take-home vehicles, so they're driving their personal vehicles there, and they're going to be there the whole time the shift's going on. You got to have some vehicles, some room for the police cars who would come there, and a few spots, but very few, for public that might come there. So I'm trying to keep the number as low as possible. But I drive by 8509 pretty regularly, and it's difficult for me to see, without some additional paving on the site at least, that there would be enough there to meet even the minimum requirements. And what I really want to do is I want to have Russell Delancey, city architect, go out there and actually try to plot out what you could put there, what is there, what you could put there, and depending on what that number is, what you could get if we ended up having to acquire the piece of property just north of that at the corner, I believe, of Millicent and Line Avenue. So, I don't want us to get too far down the road if it's obvious we can't meet it at all. I'm not sure that's the problem. I just want to make sure if we're going to do appraisals, for instance, and if it looks like we're going to need the property just north of that to get our parking number, I want us to appraise them both at the same time.
Okay, and the building farther up the street on Line Avenue that was considerably larger,
Yes,
that was going to be shared with some other departments, that building is no longer an option?
As of this morning, it is not, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dark.
Yes.
My position on the Line Avenue building is more constituent-driven. In that particular area of Ellaby, Spring Lake, City Grove, that you have a number of shots fired calls. You have a number of shootings in that particular area. We told the citizens voted on a substation in Southeast Shreveport, and that seems to be more of an applicable area between Cedar Grove, Ellaby, Spring Lake. It is also more conducive, in my opinion, when it comes to traffic. You have I-49 that's right there, and it's very accessible for police officers to be able to get off the interstate and move about to those particular areas. My concern is your Dean Road location, because my constituent, Mr. Jameson, is deceased. And I think that if this point, that had you all been in the Dean Road location, how long it would have taken police officers to actually get to this location. So you have a number of contributing factors for me that are more constituent-driven and because of what the constituents asked for. I know that you all were looking at another building, but in that building that you all were looking at, you were looking to put other entities in there. I think that's unfair to police. I think that police they are their own community. I think they need to have their own building. I think that they need to have their own space. And so for me, the emergency is giving the attention to 8509 because there was 2 acts for the administration to look at this building, and it didn't seem to move you all in any way. So when you're having citizens in that area having meetings with their commissioner and with the sheriff regarding the number of shots called that they're hearing in that area, the number of shootings that may take place in that area, I think that warrants the emergency. We had somebody else to die because in that particular in area 2, where my constituent was robbed first in October, then you had 5 shootings of individuals in the house on Piermont, and then you had another shooting at Walgreens, and then those bullets could have ricocheted into Byrd High School. It warrants an emergency. Now, it may not be the language that you all want, but I will say this right here, that it has to be something at some particular point in time that gets the administration's attention when it comes to this. Shooting and public safety is a priority, and I still do not think that when you temporarily want to house these police officers on Dean Road for areas 2 and 4, I don't think that that's workable at all. I think there needs to be that you need to look at this building. If this is something that the police, that Councilman Brooks, Councilman Talaferro, and Councilman Butcher definitely stated that it was something that they wanted to look at, and I really don't think that the chief had any objections, but again, he works for you, so he's limited in what it is that he can say. But as of right now, what I'm looking at as an emergency, we have to deal with a family that lost a loved one. We have to deal with the man who was shot at the bus stop. Those things right there. We need law enforcement in that area. Councilman Talaferro, did you have anything else?
Not really. I do agree with, I am concerned about the distance, obviously response time. And I think we're all in agreement that the location that we're talking about on Line Avenue provides timely response, safe response to both Area 2 and Area 4. The Dean Road does concern me only because of the distance, but I have to remind myself that it is a sub-station and that officers are going there just to get in a car, those that don't have take-home vehicles, and they're going to be patrolling anyway. If they had to respond immediately from Dean Road to Area 2, yes, it would take them a long period of time, but we all know, based on the number of officers that are in a specific area at any one time, depending on the shift level, that there are always officers on the street that could respond in the need of a code or a high priority call. But it still concerns me though. But I think we're all in agreement that the substation on Line Avenue, is a good investment and warrants the due diligence from the mayor's office. And I think he's already said that that's in the works. Sometimes this discussion that we're having now kind of is the catalyst for putting things in motion a little bit faster. But I know the process that it takes to buy property and to validate property in order to get the best price for the property. I'm concerned about the negotiation process being short-changed if we mandate that we spend X amount of dollars without having some negotiation. But that's for the administration to work out. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you.
Councilman Jackson.
Madam Chair. So I came to this meeting with an open mind. I talked to Councilman Brooks, and I was hoping the administration was able to kind of let me know why we're considering other properties other than the one in question, and if it's going to be a better benefit overall for the city. I haven't really heard why we're considering any other properties other than this one. I think we've been considering this one for a while, and based on that time frame, all of the unanswered questions in my mind should have been answered. So I don't know why there is such a delay. So my question for the administration for tomorrow is to develop a timeline as to when those things can be done so we can make a definitive decision if this location will be viable or not. It appears that we're just dragging our feet for whatever reason, and time is money. The voters had already voted for 3 substations. We've already identified 2. So it's only rightfully so that we move expeditiously in identifying that 3rd location and starting to get to work so we can have 3 substations up and running. So I'm just looking for a timeline as to when we'll make a definitive decision as to if this location is viable.
Councilman Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just like to say, I can't remember when Councilman Butcher legislation came up, but it should be like at least maybe 2 months ago.
Yes.
And I just think from that time to this one, there should have been some investigation because it, in fact, I made a statement during the particular legislation, and I got a rude awakening from the administration. But I just think that if, in fact, we're going to give and take, I just think if we over here, we all for the city, I don't think that I ought to get all of my marbles, and then when you want some marbles, then your marbles got to be put on hold because I can see something else. I just think that if we're going to work together, let us work together for real and not as long as I get my piece.
Right.
Because, Tony, do you have an idea when this legislation, has it been about a month or 2?
Should have been about 2 months.
And so, here again, that was the pleasure of the council, plus that area is very needed of a substation. And I just think that sometimes that we need to do what we need to do before this if we had already done it, this legislation wouldn't even be on the table. We'd just be moving on. We'd be moving. But because it hadn't, and because it is an emergency, sometimes we let words, we play with words. Like this word here means that I must, I shall. Attorney, we know that we can't twist the mayor's arm and Mr. Dark's arm. He who holds the money makes the rules. So therefore, we know we can't make them write a check, but right is just right. It's just right to have protection over there. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. We shouldn't even, Councilman Brooks shouldn't even have to be having this. We shouldn't even be having this conversation right now. We're just wasting time. This should have been done already. It doesn't take, the other building down the street, everybody know that building that SWEPCO wanted another building we had, and then we was gonna swap and do such. Everybody know that, but it was not the citizens made the money for a substation for police, not to have police in with SPAR and with property standards. And the police is the police. And that's public safety is public safety.
Correct.
So that's all we ought to be looking at. But everybody knows, when the cow get out of the fence, it's too late to close the gate. Everybody know that there was a deal with our building over on, I guess that's Kings Highway, wherever over by Knight Street, that we wanted that building and we was gonna swap. That's not what the citizens wanted. And so we just have to sometimes stop playing games and just take care of real business, and we won't have to have these conversations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And my last thing is, I wanted to do this before, but I wanted us to pray for Terry.
Yes.
She lost her mother.
mother.
And I asked for the prayers of the council and for the community, that we would say a prayer for Terry and her family. And I think Tanya and them are getting some cards together that we could send. She's a very faithful worker, and I just wanted to offer our prayers and condolences.
Most
Thank
definitely.
you, Madam Chair.
please extend that. Madam Clerk, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table?
No, ma'am.
We have no property standards or ABO appeals to consider today. We have no MPC, ZBA appeals to consider tomorrow. Are there any other appeals, Madam Clerk?
No, ma'am.
Are there any reports from officers, boards, and committees? Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report?
No, ma'am.
Executive session? None. Before we dismiss, can we stand and say a prayer for Terry? Councilman Green.
Lord, we just ask that you would come in our midst, and thank you for this meeting, and thank you that we carried it out in a Christ-like manner for the good of our city and for our citizens. Lord, we ask that you would continue to lift up the family of Terry and our entire family, and let them know that you can and you will take care. Everybody that comes by to visit with them, give them an uplifting word. And Lord, we ask that you let them know that you have not been unfair, that in order for us to come to you, it's by way of the grave. And Lord, thank you for what you've done. We praise you in advance for what you're going to do. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
I don't want to go.